Hi there, poetry freaks, and welcome to Bush Slam. This is the show that puts poets and poetry in motion across Australia. I'm H.G. Nelson, pulling the levers of the Bush Slam big cat as we go digging for diamonds in the dust. Yes, this week Bush Slam bobs up in Lightning Ridge. Now this area, laden with opal, was once under a vast inland sea, and like miners, poets have to dig. But they dig in the dirt of emotions and ideas to come up with a take on a place. Our slammers have 3 days to capture Lightning Ridge in verse, and then the tricky bit. They have to perform their poem before the assembled people who live here for a thumbs up or a thumbs down. So let's get digging and meet this week's poets under the pump.
I started breakdancing in 1984, and I've also have a theatre background. And since then, I've mixed hip-hop and theatre. So I like to be able to tell my stories through rap, using beatboxing and of course, my text. I'm a Sydney-based hip-hop anthropologist. Follow this, like the Leyland brothers from the outback to the metropolis. Redfern to Derby to Wakanya to the Territory. Fellas in lockup, everybody gotta tell a story. I really like stuff which is edutainment. You know, it entertains me, but it also tells me something, and maybe I learn something from it as well. Morganics, that's me.
I was born in 71, policeman dad, and a yodeling mom. Got no brothers, sisters, highs. I'm an only child.
I'm Melinda Schneider, and I'm a singer-songwriter. I especially like country music because the lyrics are really important and you can write about true stories, you know, 3 chords and the truth.
Stage at the age of 3.
Songwriting's a funny thing, you know. Sometimes inspiration strikes and other times it doesn't.
Remember when I would fall asleep under Mom's fur coat backstage.
My auntie Rita came to Lightning Ridge, and it's quite bizarre that I find myself here this week because she died last week and I was very close to her. I lived with her for the last 4 years and she loved Lightning Ridge. She was also a songwriter. So it's very strange that today am standing in Lightning Ridge just after Rita's death. And Reet, I hope you can help me with this. I know you'll be a good influence.
Well, Morganics is one of the treats of Lightning Ridge, of course, the chambers of the Black Hand, Ron and Trevor's place.
Yeah, well, they say it's the Sistine Chapel of the Lightning Ridge.
Oh, Lord. Oh, I've got to knock myself out before I get to the bottom. That is amazing. Well, Morganics, look, here's the Michelangelo of the Sistine ceiling here. This is Ron. Ron, great to see you in action.
Pleased to meet you. Pleased to meet
At
you.
last. What are you up to here? This looks like a figure Michelangelo might have done on, say, the tomb of Pope Julius II.
Oh, there you go. I'm just putting a few finishing touches to it and keeping it nice and pristine for when the visitors come round.
How long have you been doing this?
About 10 years. I started off just scratching on the wall and I found that it was a great medium to work with, and from then I've just carry on doing it, really. Right. Yeah.
And why aren't you opal mining?
Well, to give you an idea how much I've had out of this claim for the last 29 years, I've had about $20,000 out of it, so I think there's a good answer.
I think that makes you a rich poet. You're doing well, doing well.
You're driven to art because you're a failure as an opal miner.
I'm afraid so, that's right.
God almighty, what is that? Some Tyrannosaurus Rex sort of thing. Look at this thing here. Woohoo! The end of the tail, where does it end? And everywhere, yeah. Well, Morganics, here we are in the finest Egyptian room this side of the Nile, and you say you can rap about anything. Have a go at this, buddy.
Oh, by crikey. Well, the one thing in hip-hop, they love hieroglyphs and maps and tags, and wherever it be, I'm hanging down like a mummy to wake me up, but I'm not like that. I'm more like a gold cat, like gold and blue. I grab you and bite you like Raiders of the Lost Ark. I saw your reflection, but it doesn't matter. Well, I'm a defection. Feel the sounds and do what we see underground. These be the sounds, and we move them all around. I'm like an eagle face, an HD bits of beat. These be the words as we walk through the street, feel the heat, When we walk through the streets, feel the heat, I'm like, these be the words, and we break it under down like you, me. We're sitting on my knee,
me. I'm hanging around with a man with a beardy, and I cut you, slash you, catch you like a lasso. These be the words that I bring, but I never can translate these things because hieroglyphic, that's a crazy thing.
Rita was an amazing person. She'd kill me for saying this, but slightly eccentric, highly intelligent, generous, funny, infuriatingly independent. Lots of wonderful things. Those last 4 years of her life gave me an opportunity to get to know her a lot better than I did when I was a kid growing up. You know your aunties and uncles, but not that intimately. Rita loved Lightning Ridge. She loved gemstones, and as a kid she was obsessed with her metal detector. We used to go up and down Brighton Beach together and searching for money or any kind of gold or whatever she would look for with this metal detector, and I loved it. It was a real adventure.
When I seen you there, I just got a little present for you.
Oh,
Just
wow.
something as a memento from Lightning Ridge,
Oh, thank you so much.
just in case you don't get to take something
So
back.
lovely, thank you.
Yep, no worries.
Love it.
Yep.
Beautiful. This guy just came up to me on the street and presented me with this opal, which is absolutely beautiful. It kind of looks like old fat Elvis. I love it. It's my first opal, so I'm rapt. He was so cute and very much a country music fan, and that's the beauty of country music fans. They're just very friendly people, so yeah, it's lovely.
Where are we?
We're at the Astronomer's Monument at Lightning Ridge, built by Alex Spurlak, who was an immigrant Polish opal miner. And he had been accused of murder in Brisbane, and he was jailed initially for an 8-year sentence. Because he'd found the body, the police assumed he was the murderer. But he was exonerated, came out after 4 years in prison. He came here feeling very bitter and twisted and regarded himself as the second Robinson Crusoe, and that he gave himself that name because he'd felt abandoned. He spoke very bad English.
Do you think that his limited English sort of made him, reach out to the stars or something?
Well, yes, and I think he was interested in the stars, but he was born in the same region in Jablonka in Poland that Copernicus was born in. And so he had an interest from boyhood.
And he went out in an interesting way.
Yes, it was a tragedy, really. He had perished in a fire here, which was caused through gas leaking from badly constructed pipes, and it just ignited in the night, and there was huge booms and bangs heard all over the town.
I'm just sketching out ideas of just trying to respond to it straight away. Galileo making patterns that make sense for a Polish man. I think what I'm finding sort of interesting about it is that it's a monument to that which is sort of like sublime and mysterious up in the sky, but the object itself is really roughly hewn. Lost in translation in a southern location, linguistically sidelined and confined to do time for a crime that he never did. So he hid his head in the stars, from the earth to the sun via concrete. He built himself wings, black opals beneath feet. So, yeah, I know, I'm just sort of playing with that idea, sort of almost like he's a little conduit or someone who's stuck in between this sort of prehistoric time of the dark black opals and the, the omnipresent time of the constellations, and in between is this his sort of strange creation.
Has Morganics nailed his poem with a hole-in-one ace on his first day in the Ridge? Melinda, who is battling the blues, is now under pressure to dig deeper for a slam-winning 50-carat gem. Well, Morganics, look, I've always thought of hip-hop as the natural sound of golf.
Yeah.
You know, Run DMC,
Yeah.
you know, De La Soul,
Walk This Way.
Ice-T, Walk This Way.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, just now that we're out here and we're removed from civilization, just how do we get that sound of golf, the hip-hop, the real sound of golf happening?
Well, I think one of the sounds of golf is like that. You can probably do that when you sit here. Oh. Yeah.
Well, the poem Morganics, I mean, is there anything that people who may know the work, the great work of Tupac Shakur or the notorious B.I.G., would there be anything for them in it?
Probably not too much, actually, because, I mean, in hip-hop, it's all about represent, you know, represent your people where you're from, or, you know, in this case, I've got to apply that to represent Lightning Ridge. So the thing which has caught me is, you know, immigrants who come here from a dark time, a dark place, a regime, something they want to escape, to a big open blue sky, something to escape.
With value in the ground.
Indeed.
Now, let's see if we can put something in the ground here, buddy.
All right, here we go.
Oh,
so
too
close,
fat.
so
Oh,
close.
close, but far too fat.
You know what fat means in hip-hop? It's good, actually.
No, perfect.
Wow.
Isn't it beautiful? That's the first thing that Joan ever built, and she built that when she was 60 years old, recovering from breast cancer.
Beautiful.
And she wanted her husband to build her a fireplace, and he said if she wanted one, she had to do it herself. And when she started, she couldn't stop, and it took her 8 years to build these 3 buildings and 15 years to do everything. She used 14,000 bottles and cans. She was a teetotaler. Everyone came from the pub, the club, and the hotel. She'd rip off the labels and rinse them.
Wow. So this is amazing. How did you end up in a place like this?
We were on holidays, and we just happened to be in Lightning Ridge and came here. And I walked inside, and I looked around, and it was deja vu. It was so strong, and I realized that this is a place I had been dreaming of since I was 19.
So you dreamed of this house when you were 19?
From 19, when I was 18, I ran off and got married, and when I was 19, I realized I'd made such a big mistake, and I just said, "Dear Lord, please show me that there's more to my life than this," and that was the first time I dreamt of this place. And for the next nearly 40 years, I had this reoccurring dream of the place, and it was for sale, and we had to buy it.
The story of Joan initially building that bottle house was pretty fascinating, and it must be something about these Aquarian women, because Rita, Gail and Joan were all Aquarians. They like the unusual.
The hard thing for me on this project is not to write 20 poems in 3 days, because as an MC, we write, or I personally write a lot. I guess the big thing for me is going to be sifting for the real black opal poem.
G'day, good, how you doing? So I'm checking out this mural, and it's a beautiful yarn on the side here, obviously from a local elder, about how the Naran Lake was made, and a fellow was missing his wife, and so he went down to the river and speared this crocodile in the eye and cut the crocodile open and took his wife out, put her on an ant bed, and that ant bed made this big sandhill, and that's how the lake and the sandhill was made down there. That's great.
Well, Melinda, 24 hours to go. And how's it going? You got the tools out, I see, and you're banging away, but is anything coming?
It is, yeah. I sort of, on the way in to the ridge, I had an idea in the car, and I started writing that, and it was quite dark and quite morose, and I thought I was going to go that way because I was feeling a little in that mood myself. But funnily enough, after meeting a couple of the locals, I was quite inspired in a much more positive direction, and I reckon that's always a better way to go, really.
Now, Lightning Ridge is a sort of funny sort of place. I mean, a lot of people come here with dreams and hopes of becoming millionaires, and yet for most of them, they'd probably go away empty-handed.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me a bit of Nashville, you know. It's that same kind of hope and faith that, you know, you're going to get the next big cut. But I love it here. It's just got this amazing energy, and there's a freedom here that you don't find in many places.
Now, the shape of the poem, how about a bracket song? I know this is a bit technical, you know, where the title's got brackets in it, you know. Like all great country tunes, if you leave me, open brackets, can I come too, sort of thing,
yes.
You know, that sort of thing.
No, there's no brackets in this one, but, you know, you never know. Some might appear.
As Bad Light stops play on day 2, Melinda hopes that the Ridge's cast of colourful characters can come to her poetic rescue.
You can't come to Lightning Ridge without coming down into a mine. I'm a little nervous about it collapsing, but apparently that doesn't happen too often. So Fred, how long have you had this mine and been working it?
We've been here probably about a year and a half. We've gotten some pretty good trace, a bit of opal, and it's just a matter of any day now. We think, been saying that for years, but that's basically the whole thing with opal mining.
So you must be a man of faith and hope to keep doing this day after
just
day.
A dreamer, eh? Ah, you know all about it.
So Fred, what percentage of people do well out of opal mining?
The ones who do very, very well, it's probably 2 or 3%.
Wow.
It's like a pyramid, it goes down and then maybe 10% do okay or pretty good, and then 20% do okay, and then 70% just barely struggle to keep afloat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does it look like when you spot it in the wall?
This is one in the rough, so this is how nature made it.
Yeah.
But if you actually hit one with a pick, break open, and see how it goes shiny?
Wow.
So you can actually see the colour in it.
Now, have you got a cut one with you? Wow. And how many carats is that?
That's 31 carats.
Wow. And how much is that worth, Fred? Show me the money.
Show me the money. It's opal's actually subjective a little bit, but I would say 40, 50 grand, I hope.
Wow.
But whether I can get that much or not, we'll see.
What was good today for me was meeting Fred down in the mine. He's a real survivor. He's still got great innocence about him and a great sense of humour, and you know, he's been through some ups and downs in his life, and I just like the way he's recovered from those and kept going, and seems to just be a genuinely happy person, and I always admire that in people. So I've written down a lot of different things that have happened to Fred over the years that he shared with me, and I hope he doesn't mind if I use some of them.
Well, Morganics, here we are in the sound lab at the Lightning Ridge Hotel Motel, the Hoey Moey. What are the tools before us?
Well, for these days, I mean, you need a laptop, and because I'm a producer, I make my beats on it as well. But I take a lot of photos. Sometimes they end up as video clips. But the photos help me, I don't know, just reflect back on what I've seen, what's caught my attention. And I like to mix the digital with the analogue of the notepad. I like to write, you know, sort of, you know, with my hands.
OK, we've got photos here. Now, how does that come on the page there?
So I was coming up like, with ink is opal, my style is vocal. Try to speak for the local, but you know that's hopeful. So I peer down mine shafts, searching for the past, listen for the inland sea that left its mark. And that's sort of, you know, bouncing off the murals that I see of miners around town.
When we come and do the slam, this will be backed by a beat. Can you demonstrate maybe where you're headed with the beats?
The beats, I think for this thing, I'm going to actually go back to this little toy, which is a looping pedal. So I can press it down and I'll be like, with the mic, you always carry your mic, be like, press it again and it'll keep going.
and then over that I can rap.
I'm quite happy with it. It's simple, which I think is good. Initially, it was about being a poem, and then I heard that Morganics was going to be using a little bit of beatboxing sort of backing track for his thing, so I thought, well, maybe I should use a little bit of guitar as well, just to give it a bit of atmosphere. So I'm just going to strum the guitar in the verses and recite the verses, and then I've got a chorus or a refrain that I'll be singing, and hopefully getting the crowd to sing along with me too. I like audience participation, it always helps.
And now, to get the show underway, Lightning Ridge, can you reduce yourself to rubble and get 'em out and bang 'em as you welcome from parts unknown, weight unknown, the mate of Morganics!
All right, thank you very much. I peer down mine shafts, searching for the past. Listen for the inland sea that left its mark on the river created by a crocodile's scream. Dreamtime visions of the proud Yarra Wall who now stroll down to the Harlequin for a sausage roll. 'Cause life carries on. Immigrants enter in, searching for a new life from a dark place. Step out the rat race, breathing in the space. Confined to do time for a crime that he never did. 4 years taken, exonerated, then hid. Far away from the big city, out of the bars. Couldn't speak English, so he spoke to the stars. Jupiter, Saturn, Galileo making patterns for a Polish immigrant in an alien land. Slapping it all together with his bare hands. On freebies of concrete and pebbles of time to kill, he built a monument to astronomers on a hill. A cactus flower blooms in a hard place. But tell me, who can battle fate? Because Alex Spurlack built a gas stove with a dodgy garden hose next to a kerosene fridge, and one day at home alone, I think you can imagine exactly what it did. But life carries on, men are tinkering, women working hard, bringing money in. UK Ron dug deep for years for little cash in his opal mine. So he took out his cutlery and carved images from his mind. So remember to leave your mark, like a mark in time. I carve words like sandstone when I rhyme. Because deep beneath the surface, hope is surfacing. Yes, deep beneath the surface in Lightning Ridge, hope is surfacing.
And now the challenger tonight is a woman who needs absolutely no introduction to the Lightning Ridge audience, so she's not getting one. Can you please go stark raving mad and jump up and down for Melinda Schneider?
This is called Colourful and Free. As I rode in the back of my mate Andy's ute with his old German shepherd, Hildy, Andy said, people have lots in common out here at the Ridge. They're colourful and they're free. I got a pretty strong sense of this down in his mind with his mate Fred chin-wagging to me. Now, some might call the locals unusual, but I reckon they're colourful and they're free. Oh, they're colourful and they're free, exactly who they want to be. And I'm feeling a little envy, 'cause I'm going back to the city. Now, Gail found herself at the Black Queen. She says it was her destiny. She's like the bottles and lamps she lights up. They're colourful and they're free. There are criminals, backpackers, tourists and dreamers. They're more common than not divorcee. Yeah, they're all escaping from somewhere. 'cause here they're colourful and they're free. Yeah, they're colourful and they're free, exactly who they want to be. And I'm feeling a little envy, 'cause I'm going back to the city. Yeah, I'm feeling a little envy, 'cause I'm going back to the city. Thank you.
And now, Lightning Ridge, here's the tricky bit. Those who thought Morganics' poem represented Lightning Ridge the best, clap now. And those who thought Melinda Schneider's song represented the Ridge best, clap now. By the biggest of margins, I now salute Melinda Schneider as the winner of Bush Slam in Lightning Ridge.
I love Melinda's, I must say.
That'll be number one in Australia for Melinda Schneider again.
Definitely the rapper. Yes. Because it was much more entertaining, more exciting, more fun.
I like them both very much. I think Morganics was my favourite, but they were both absolutely great.
I love the guy's poem, but I think more people relate to Melinda Schneider.